Welcome back. My guest today is Robin Montgomery. Welcome, Robin.
Thank you.
And today we're going to mix it up a little bit because I don't actually know what we're talking about, which is great. It's actually better for me. And the reason, I'll give you a little bit of background. So Robin and I have been exploring the universe and working together for about 12 years. Yes, 12 years, Robin?
Maybe more.
Maybe more. So at least 12 years. And, we've learned so much about human potential together. And it's actually been an incredible journey and an incredible ride. And so I have this community of high level seekers and people who genuinely want to reach their full human potential. And Robin asked a question in the community, and I was like, wait, I'm not going to answer it now. I'm wondering if you would be interested in having that as a podcast episode, if you'd be interested in being a guest. And I was super grateful when Robin agreed. And so here we are. So I don't actually remember the question because it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I do know that it was something to do with death. But other than that, we're going to explore it today. And I'll just give you a little bit of background and the reason why I didn't answer when Robin first asked and why, because when I go in energetically to explore something, when someone asks a question and I start to go in, it gets really big. And then I get to go deeper in. And, we've been doing this in our private community. We have a few different ones for years, but Robin and I have also been doing it, back and forth, like we both said, well over a dozen years. And what happens is the first time I'm in, when the awareness comes out, it's the purest, it's the biggest. And yes, we get to go deeper as we ask more questions, but for me, it's my favorite experience. It's that first time of looking at life and existence in that way. And we get to explore that perspective. And so that's ultimately why I said, okay, let's just wait. And so what I do is I shut my brain down and I don't let it open. But I knew that the question was big enough that because as soon as I was reading it, the energy it started to build. And I was like, oh, this is a good one. This is a big one. So ultimately, we're going to do it together now. So I'm just giving you guys a little bit of background on sort of how it works for me. And my favorite is the first time it comes through. So Robin, share what you were thinking and a little bit about where it came from.
I'll start with where it came from. In this past year and a bit, and probably most of my life, I would have to say, I've had this fascination surrounding death. The severity of death, the fear around death and dying. And this past year and a half, I have experienced such a higher level of, I'm probably going to say even the last 3 years, a higher level of the experience of death, both experiencing it almost and
in your own life, for your own life.
Yes.
Not just other people in your life. Yes.
Yeah. I've always had people come to me after they pass and I would ask the question, why are you here? And it's because you can see me. And I'd be like, okay. And then what's it like? Are you okay? And I would get the information that all of these things were okay. And a friend's son who passed away, it was a rather tragic motor vehicle accident. So in the tragedy, and when I learned about the injuries, I kind of went, there's no coming back from this. And yet he came and he walked me through his entire journey. And the reality is he felt nothing. So when the impact happened, he felt nothing. It's like you get suspended and supported. And then it's just this whole sense of love. And then, he had his moments where he was aware of what was going on. And then he had another removal, I'll say. So there's no what we call emotional feeling. Like we think it's very traumatic and oh my gosh, how awful it is. But it was such a beautiful transition experience that I just felt nothing but love. So I couldn't feel the emotion of loss for him because it was such a beautiful experience in that transition process. When I went to the funeral, I mean, I could feel everybody else's emotions, and it was, you get emotional for sure. And so the question I asked you was, why do people in general get so emotionally distraught over death and dying? Because it is a natural process. We're all getting off the bus. And so how did it ever become such an emotional, dramatic experience instead of this celebration of, we're moving to this next aspect of our being that is just absolute joy, bliss? We as humans have forgotten what that experience is. And I've had the experience of feeling that separation, that support, that love behind that transition process. And it's beautiful.
I agree. I agree. Death is a sacred experience, and it's one of the most highest vibration experiences that you can have. Now, that being said, when it happens as a result of trauma, okay, particularly unexpected trauma, it's really cool. So when humans cross over, we go out of, it's really cool because we go out of the physical aspects of ourselves and we return to our wholeness, which is full awareness, right? So the physical aspects of us are our mental and emotional reactions, as well as any of the beliefs that we've been taught, right? Those are your mental aspects. So it's really cool, actually, because in one of the other podcasts, we were talking about this, and the misconception of pain, the misconception of pain is actually, it's intense, because pain itself is a taught behavior, and it's learned. It's not actually universal. And our bodies actually have sensors, which is the central nervous system. It's little sensors that let us know when we're doing something we shouldn't be, or we're doing something that's going to cause. It's funny because our brains go, it's going to cause pain and discomfort, but energetically, it's this understanding that it's going to cause an experience where we're going to be affected. Like our ability to be who we are and where we're meant to be going is going to be affected. So it lets us know, back off, come back. And obviously there's going to be traumatic, where there's accidents and like you were talking about, where you have zero control over that situation. What is beautiful is, when humans cross over, we no longer have the constraints of the physical mind and the belief system. And this is important because it's the foundation of your question. Because when we first arrived here as humans, we lived 500 to 800 years at a time. Our lives were that long because we understood that we could exist until we were done with our experience, right? Because as souls, we come in because we're exploring one aspect of existence. So we come in to explore that, and we're here, we participate, and we stay until we're no longer needed. And what that means is, it's not like we're disposable. It's understanding that we're contributing to evolution, the evolution of humankind, right? So humankind is a race of physical beings who incarnate from soul essence first. right? So we're souls first. We have full awareness of existence, and then we come into these physical forms that create the limitations that we then need to experience. But when we first were created, the limitations were very, very few, very, very few. And it's because they've become more dense over time, because we've been trained how to think, how to be, how to act, how to react. So ultimately, you know, we were taught to become fearful of death. We were taught to become uncomfortable. Why? So we can be controlled by a system that needs to fix us.
Mm.
And at the end of the day, we're not broken. But if you believe you have a disease that's going to be fatal, it impacts you to then search for help from someone who's going to fix you. And that journey, when it's the acceptance of, I'm going to die, that basically that's energetically what you're saying to the universe. Oh, I'm going to die. So then it's a whole bunch of experiences about preparing, getting ready, being okay with that. And that in itself is, it's funny because it's actually quite similar to the original intention. Once you knew you were done, right? You're a couple hundred, years into your journey, and you're like, okay, I've explored everything that I was meant to explore here, and then some, and I'm ready to go. You start to prepare. And you prepare in a way that it's not dramatic. It's not because we didn't have stuff. So you didn't need to give your stuff away. It's not about, having these big, elaborate experiences that are basically excuses to come together as a family. Because at the end of the day, our entire being and existence is based on connection. So we always have awareness of each other. And that's the part that's been forgotten, is our ability to connect with other humans. Because when you can connect with them, you have zero attachment to how and when they leave this physical world, because it's their time. There's an acceptance. It's not, oh, it's a bigger picture. Someone else has, God has a story for them that we just don't understand. No, it doesn't work like that. It's understanding that we choose. We choose. And most of us think we're not choosing based on, it's interesting. Because I know that this is going to challenge a lot of beliefs. So I can feel that. So it even makes me a little bit uncomfortable saying it. But again, the truth is, how we act and react determines our existence in physical form as well as in soul. The challenge where we are currently is that humans have forgotten that it's the soul that is the key. And it's the soul that determines everything, really, everything. And when you understand that your soul came here for a purpose, and a lot of the time right now, I'll be completely honest, when people are getting diagnosed with different diseases and different challenges, they're literally coming in with the understanding that they know this is going to happen, and they want to see if they can overcome it. Because in order to restore human potential, humans have to remember who we are. And when you can remember who you are, disease doesn't exist. That's a big one, eh?
Mm.
Like, disease doesn't actually exist. It will build in your cells if you give it the opportunity. What do I mean by this? Oh, because I know people are going to be angry. and I'm not laughing at your anger. I'm laughing at how big this is to try and explain in a way that makes sense. You know, I mean, I've been studying existence for 20 plus years, so I have a great understanding. How can I help you as a listener who's hearing this for the first time? How can I help you to come to the awareness without, you know, without having the anger and the frustration and the sadness in place, because you think about the people that you've loved and lost potentially. But here's the thing. Anger is actually our biggest indicator on where we need to look to change our beliefs. Would you say? I mean, Robin, I mean, years and years of exploring the universe together, that would be number one. Yes.
100%.
Yeah. Anger is your absolute best indicator, because anger is fear.
Yeah. And it's the one thing we choose not to admit that we have, or
right.
I'm angry, I'm okay.
Right.
Meanwhile, there's that pit inside. Yeah.
Or we go the other way and we go into it so deeply, and then we use it as a defense mechanism where I'm too sad because this has happened. I'm too angry that this has happened, or, you know, I'm overwhelmed, which is also, you know, it's we tend to go to one extreme or the other when it comes to death, really. And the reason that, man, the reason we've gotten so far away from our roots is because we were taught to believe that existence is not ours to determine. It's just something that's going to happen whenever it happens, and it's unknown. Wow, but that's not true.
Doesn't even feel
right.
Yeah.
And they're showing, so the religious belief system indoctrined those beliefs so that they could strategically, what's the word, bring you into their safe space, right? So it was, this is what's going to happen, and we're going to keep you safe. And that's an abuse of power, is really what it is. You know, when you first and foremost use a lie to then tell people you're going to protect them from that lie, that's manipulation in its greatest form. And it's pretty sad when you think about it, right? I mean, as humans, we're meant to come here and play. We're meant to come here to experience our own potential. And it has changed into something completely different, because we're, you know, between the financial, the financial foundation, the education foundation, the religion, and the medical, right? We're stuck. And it's really interesting, because we're stuck between these four pillars that basically block us from experiencing our greatest potential. So the question becomes, how do we do it in spite of them? How do we live? How do we become who we're meant to be? How do we experience life so that we can participate and feel good about who we are and what we're doing, and have fun, and really and truly return to a space of joy, right? Because when you understand, and they're showing me the answer is connection, 100%. And connection through energy, not connection through your phone, through your internet, you know, through email. It's nothing to do with reaching out and physically touching someone. Connection is about your awareness of energy and how you feel and how you feel in relation to those you love. And to your point that you were saying before, like, we don't realize it as human beings. We don't understand and we don't take into consideration that that's our foremost gift as human beings, is our ability to connect with other humans, right? It starts from the moment you're conceived, all through gestation, through birth. Your whole life is about connection. And when you're repeatedly told that you can't connect, you can't feel, you can't do this, you have to focus on the physical, you have to focus on this aspect or this aspect to perform, to make sure people love you, right? If you do these things, then we'll love you. If you're good at this, then we'll love you. But none of them are based on energy and connection, because we're energetic beings, right? Like, it's funny when people are like, oh, you're crazy, we're just physical. My favorite example, and it's been this way for almost 20 years, is when you walk into a room and someone's angry and you ask them, what's wrong? And they're like, nothing. And you're like, does that mean that your awareness of how they're feeling goes away? No, it doesn't, because they said nothing. And yet people always discount their instincts. And our instinct is, there's something wrong with this human. And we've been taught to discount that so much that we don't follow through on it. We're like, okay, well, I'm going to give them some space, or I'm going to ignore them, or, instead of walking to a room and going, whoa, there's something wrong. So I'm not going to use words. I'm going to feel where that person is and what they need from me. And then, okay, I'm going to give them some space, or they're in the middle of processing something big. They need a bit more room. Oh, they don't understand, or they're feeling sad, or they're feeling like nobody understands them. So what do they need from me? Okay. So, based on what you feel, right? It's really, it's interesting, because I was talking to my son a couple days ago, and he said something, and it was one of those things where I've been aware of this for years, but now it's crept into my own family. And I was like, oh, sneaky, sneaky. And, we were just having a discussion about something, and he's like, cause you know me, right? Like, you know me. And I was like, oh, there it is. Sneaky. And that is one of our addictions, is to believe that we know the other person. And we know what they like, how they like it, when they like it, right? All the things. And then what happens is, when that person wants to create a change, they don't feel like they can, because they feel worried that, or, right? Or other people we get uncomfortable if the person wants to change. It's like, but you've done it this way for 15 years, or, with my son, it could be just 2 minutes. And he's like, but you've done it this way. And the reality is, it threatens the relationship. And that's because that relationship is not based on connection. Right? So when those dynamics occur, it's really, really fascinating when someone says, oh, but, it's like, how someone likes their coffee in the morning. That's great. That's great. But what happens if that person decides they don't want to have cream in their coffee anymore, because they don't want to have dairy, or they don't want to have sugar because they're cutting sugar out? Is that going to threaten your belief about who they are, right? And this is why creating change is so challenging. And it's really cool, because when you look at it, those 4 pillars have been so ingrained, those 4 pillars of belief, right? The religion, medical, financial, and education. So those 4 systems, they're the 4 pillars of what's the word I'm looking for? Of civilized of civilized existence. And so what happens is, it takes us out of our ability to feel, out of our recognition and awareness of who we are, and puts us in in a paradigm where we're constantly wondering if we're good enough or if we're enough, period. And this is ultimately where our feelings go to die almost. It's really interesting. It's like, we're no longer in our ability to feel. We're in our emotions, right? So that's all mind.
And if I can jump in just for a second,
yeah, please.
For clarification for anybody who's watching, because I know when I do my brain energy, feel energy, brain think, anytime I hear the word feel, like feel that, I go jump emotions. I should be feeling an emotion right now as opposed to feeling the energy. So just to clarify that terminology.
Because we've done that, right? That's one of like the first things that we share, and we've explored that for about 15, 20 years. So I do take it for granted that you and I know what we're talking about, the difference between the two.
And I'll admit that my brain will go, emotions. And it's like, you didn't feel that. And it's like, feel what? It's not an emotion, it's an energy. So I still, because my brain has a very strong pull sometimes, as you all know, there's that dance of, what does that mean?
Yeah. And at the end of the day, that's the key to everything. Right. And right to your question of, how did death become? Because we got caught in our emotions. We weren't in feelings.
Yeah. And for me, one of the learnings that I had, because I had an experience a week ago about sadness surrounding death or loss, and the emotions were just sweeping in, and I was just, whoa. And then all of a sudden,
and that was just the expectation of it may happen. Like it wasn't even,
no,
it didn't even happen.
It was thought that it could. And then the word that came in was attachment.
Yeah.
And then I went, if I wasn't attached, I would just allow all processes to be as they are and love them all.
Right.
Unconditionally.
Such a big conversation because, every relationship we go into, we're taught to attach ourselves to the other person, and that's a connection. That's how we communicate. We attach our dreams, our hopes, our everything to that person, that animal, that experience in our life, right? It could be a job, it could be anything that is, when it's time to end or shift and change, we don't allow for that experience to occur naturally because we're so attached and connected to our emotional response of what that's going to mean. And it's actually, I'm just feeling into, it's like a phenomenon that occurs in the brain. And when we're designed to use our brain as a tool to process experiences in a way that lets us know, oh, this is happening. And, it's an indication. It's not a processing tool for how we feel. It's a tool that allows us to process. And what I mean by that, the word process here is, oh, this is happening right now. Right? Like, especially when trauma comes in, because you're doing something completely different and all of a sudden you'll get a phone call or you'll be in a car accident, and so your brain needs time to change, to go from here to there, right? It's like this red flashing light in your brain that goes, okay, we just changed from what we were doing and now something else is occurring and you need to pay attention. That's what our brains were designed for. That's it. They weren't designed to lead. They weren't designed to process emotions and feelings, because an emotion is an experience. So here's the cool thing. An emotion is the mind's reaction and reflection on what's occurring energetically. But as we know, our minds do not have the capacity to feel the depths of existence and all the depths of the feelings of the awareness that is actually there, because our brains are really limited. And for most people, we're using 2-3% of our brain, 5 at the most. So, it's understanding that your brain doesn't have the capacity, even if you were to explore and say, okay, I want to use 100% of brain, your brain is still a physical thing. It's a physical thing, literally. So it doesn't know and understand the capacity of energy and the energetic existence, which goes to the ends of existence. There is no end, right? It just keeps going. And so it's understanding that when you're trying to use your brain to comprehend how you feel or how you're relating to an experience, you go so deeply into the rules of the physical. That's where the mind wants to stay. And that's where, it's funny because they're showing me, it's like having all these questions on repeat, like, why is this happening? Why is this happening? Why is this happening? Why would this happen to this person? They're so amazing, or this person was so young, or this person did this. And, we get caught up in the why, but we don't allow the answer to come through.
Mm.
We don't allow it to come through. And that's energy. Like, answers come through energy, but we don't want to feel. We've been taught that feeling is bad. It's overwhelming. It's not productive. It will hurt us. And this is why existence is, humanity is in such a state of distress.
Mm.
Because we don't
Yeah.
feel, we don't honor how we feel, and we've forgotten.
Yeah. And I was brought up, I'll say the truth hurts. So I was always withheld from truth because, we don't want to hurt her. So even to this day, I still have that image of the truth is going to hurt. But when I get the truth, I might feel hurt emotionally.
Yeah.
Yet it's so liberating.
Well, and that's the whole point, is energy holds the existence of everything that has ever occurred. And so, that's where truth comes from. And I love that you brought it in, but I want to make sure that everyone understands that truth isn't just some words that someone says. Truth is an energy all to itself of existence. And, everything that has ever occurred in existence, there's a record of it, not because someone made notes about it, right? Again, it goes back to feeling. It's just, it is right back to the original, essence of this entire universe. That's where I work. That's the, the beings who created existence, who created matter, who created humans, who created souls before even humans existed. That's where I'm working. That's why when a death occurs, I don't get lost in my emotions. I'm in the awareness of it's similar to how you were saying, you can feel the souls when they're crossing over. So it's tricky to sometimes navigate between what the person who's crossed over is experiencing and the people around them, their emotions, right? And I remember years ago, I used to work in a nonprofit with homeless teens, and when I was there, one of the teens had committed suicide, and we were all at the funeral, and he was there, and he was cracking jokes, and he was like lying on top of the coffin, and here I am trying not to laugh because that's what he wanted. He's like, lighten up, guys. Like, I'm not suffering anymore. But it's also important to understand our physical idea of what suffering is, because a lot of people will say that they're not suffering anymore. They don't have the disease anymore. They're not mentally challenged anymore, whatever their disease is, right? Mental, emotional, physical, it doesn't matter. But it's understanding that existence itself is joyful. And the crossing over process is so sacred because It's a recognition to and from our soul that our mission is completed. We're ready to move on to the next one. And I know that traumatic experiences, and you're leaving children, you're leaving loved ones, that's hard for the people who are still here to understand, to accept, um, to work through. But when you can feel their awareness of this is part of their journey to contribute to the evolution of humanity, our lives are bigger than what goes on inside of our homes. Our lives are bigger than the work that we do in the world. Every breath we take contributes to a growing awareness of existence itself. And like you were talking about with truth, every experience in existence matters. It's how evolution occurs, and we're conscious beings. So when we're not in physical form, we go instantly, like instantaneously, when our bodies cross over, when our souls cross over and leave, we revert. It's not really, but we go right back to full awareness, right back to it. And so, sometimes we need to process what's occurred, but it's not a long time, right? It used to be a lot more dramatic. And I will tell you, because for a number of years, and it's only shifted in the past 15, 20 years, I guess, is really, but before that, it could be quite dramatic. It was this, I will love you forever, and we'd give pieces of our souls away. It was quite dramatic. Now it doesn't happen anymore, especially with, the last 15, 20 years where the souls are coming in. There was a big clearing universally about 18 years ago, maybe, where that experience sort of ceased to exist. So we understand we can still say those things in this time, but energetically, we don't have that power behind it, because as a soul, we know better and we don't give our energy away, right? God, this is like a whole other conversation about existence and how we use our energy. And we're not going to go into, into that entirely today, because my goodness, we'd be here for days. But the what I love about, this conversation is we're starting the conversation. We're helping people, understand that death isn't a sentence that life is over. It's understanding that every life is just, it's a chapter in our story, and we're here to tell the whole story. But we don't know how the story is going to end, because it hasn't been created yet. That's what we are doing. That's what humans are doing. That's what evolution is. And so we have access to everything that's ever occurred. So we don't need to repeat it. And it's really cool right now, because I've never explored this, and the concept of disease in itself, and how many humans have come in with the intention to experience disease and wanting to overcome it in this particular lifetime, to show humans that it doesn't really exist. It's just a state of your belief system, right? Like, we are what we believe,
Yeah, that is giving me goosebumps, just that statement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are what we believe. And if you don't like the experience you're having, then that's because your beliefs need to change. And that's, if you're scared, if you're angry, if you're frustrated, if you're jealous, those are awesome emotions. Don't get lost in those emotions. Let them be the trigger that says, oh, wait a minute, there's got to be more here. There's got to be more to life. And don't carry it as resentment to, well, there's got to be more. Why is it only me that's having this experience? Why am I losing out? I love how death became a conversation about, life and existence and potential, right? But that's the whole point, is that's what it is. That's why we're here. And when we can understand that, it's like, all I can see, there's like, as we've been talking, I've had different um families, just knowing different experiences where people have crossed over, and and feeling the sadness of the people who are left, but now all the souls are coming back in as we're having this conversation, and they're like, that's why we did it, right? We came to help them understand about their own existence. And that's hard, especially if you're a little girl or a little boy that's 5, that's losing your parent. you know it's or any age, it doesn't it you're losing your parent at a young age, or parents losing their children, you know but it's understanding that when you ask why, when you have that question, why is this happening? It's because you're meant to start to change the world. You're meant to change how people look at things, right? Because it's our belief system that limits our existence. So if you ask why, go out and get answers. Don't stay in the why and then let it go, and then you just keep going on with your life. Use that why, because that's the reason for your existence. Isn't that cool?
Very. Yeah, because I often find that why question just remains a loop. Why, why? And then there's that block, as you said earlier, that doesn't allow information to come because you're so stuck in that why. Why me? Why?
Yep. And then
if
you've got the 4 pillars that are feeding that belief of why. And
Yeah.
well, you got to get on with this because you got to go make a living, or you got to do this, right? Like all the things that we got to do that take us away from finding the answer to our why. Wow. Such a cool, I love, because what I love the most is whenever something's confusing or there's a big question you don't really understand, they bring it back to something that is so simple every time. And
Yeah.
that's the coolest thing, is it's universal truth when it's simple. If it's complicated and there's layers, you're in your human stuff and you've listened to a human try to explain it to you.
Yeah. And for me, again, there's the word attachment, that I gotta to the pillars.
Yeah.
I gotta make a living. I cannot change because I have to be
Yep.
here. I have to have this. I have to, and without even trying, without even considering possibilities, you close that door and a window opens, and it's fear that also holds you back.
Yeah.
That fear of not knowing,
Yeah. And what's everyone else going to say if I change my whole life and start doing it this way, and how is it going to impact everyone that I've made commitments to, right? In those attachments, right? Now, these attachments need me, right?
Mm.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I would say all of this it's being able to follow your why. And, uh, listen, I know that this conversation in itself may be challenging enough, and that's fine. The whole point of what we're doing with this podcast is opening doors so that your brain can start to look at life and existence in different ways, and that's the whole point, is to challenge your belief systems, right? To get us out of this judgment culture that ensures we stay the same, right? It ensures we follow the rules and we do the same thing that we've been doing for years, because if we change, we're going to let someone else down. And it's understanding that if you have those big whys and you don't follow them, you're letting yourself down, and that's, I mean, let me explain what I mean by that. Is we come here and we have this experience in this life for a reason. You've chosen as a soul to come and have this experience. And so when you don't follow your whys, it's like, I can see it's like tentacles from an octopus kind of thing, or even a jellyfish. It's like you're left hanging, like they're just sort of floating out there. And that's you. That's all your, your reason for existence. There's nothing for you to attach to. And there's nothing for you to, oh, it's so beautiful, because our attachment to a purpose is why we're here. And
Mm.
I mean, a purpose is this is a really strong word, because a lot of people here in physical form associate purpose with like a job description, right? Like you want to know what it is and how we're meant to perform it, and so that we can go out and do it, and we'll get the acclaim, the rewards, that like the benefits of having this job. But that is not purpose. That's not what it is. It's not how it exists. It's understanding that you're here for a reason, to contribute to existence and evolution. And so that is the reward, is watching and being a part of that evolution, right? And
Mm.
when you navigate your existence through feeling, so you follow your whys, you follow your instincts and the questions that you have, because every time you ask a question, an answer comes instantaneously. It's going to challenge your beliefs. So you have to, be open. And if you're not open, then you're going to have this illusion that the answer never came. Right. But when you follow it and the answer comes, it's going to challenge those beliefs. And that's the whole point, because that's what evolution does. It
Mm.
challenges our beliefs so that they can expand, so they can shift. And we're in this amazing time of restoring our potential as human beings, right? Because we've been covered up by these four pillars and they're crumbling. But even if they crumble, if our beliefs are still attached and we're addicted to those beliefs, even if they're crumbled and they're gone, we can still remain completely what's the word I'm looking for? It's like limited by them, right? It's I mean, it's really simple. So right now, in the history of evolution, we are doing something that's never been done. We're restoring human potential. So, historically, right, we're the fifth iteration into a physical existence. So there's been four before us, and when they go sideways, they just obliterate it and start again, and obliterate it and start again. And this time they're like, no, we're going to give humanity the opportunity to bring it back. And that's huge. That's our purpose, to bring it back. And that means that your whys are super powerful, because when you have those big questions about existence that you're like, oh, people are going to think I'm crazy, I'm not going to, you keep them to yourself, right? Or you share them with your best friends, but then you're like, oh, it's just, it
Hmm.
doesn't mean anything. And what they're showing me is this is the reason why humans are here right now, to question existence itself, everything about it. So, this is why we're doing this show. This is why it's literally to make sure that humans who are having these questions know that you're not alone, that there's a reason for it. And when you allow yourself to follow through and follow those questions, you're actually going to make the biggest impact on humankind in the history of humanity itself. That's why we're here. And, it's only been a handful of people out of the billions of people that are on the planet, right? I mean, there's a few 100,000 that are questioning. And every day now there's more. I hear of people having, spiritual awakenings all the time, all the time. And it's happening for a reason. It's happening because we're remembering and we're triggering each other to not only ask the whys, because those are natural. That's a natural instinct. We're always going to ask the why, but we're triggering each other to follow it. And our souls are speaking to us. Those are your spiritual awakenings, right? When your soul is speaking to you and saying, listen, that you're different. The world that you're living, it's not real. There's so much more to it. You're more dynamic. You're more aware. You have more possibility and more potential, you know, than you know what to do with. And we need you to see that. That's
Mm.
why spiritual awakenings happen, right? And really, it's about not wasting the time that we have, not letting it just be like, oh, well, someone else will do it. Or, it's, I'm not really that important. We are important. Every single human is important. And if you've lost someone and, you're asking why, that why can change existence itself if you're willing and strong enough to go out and find it. And if you don't have the strength to go, then your job is to find that strength and courage first. I know that there's some things where I've been asked to do and I'm like, whoa. And sometimes it takes me 2 or 3 years to find that courage and find that strength. But they know, my soul knows, the universe knows that I've chosen to say, okay, listen, I'm not ready for that yet. And the moment that I say I'm not ready for that yet is my, my awareness and we're exchanging conscious awareness of energy. And they know, okay, she needs more support. She needs more insight, more awareness, and that's what you do. When you say I'm not ready yet, what you're really saying is, and I don't have the courage to do that. It's, I need more experience, right? If you think about it, right? In
Yeah.
all things, I need more experience. And so sometimes we need more awareness. And maybe it's, I've worked with many humans as they're crossing over and going through the process, and for months and weeks and sometimes years as they go through that process. And at the end of the day, with every single experience, I learned about their strength. I learned about, you know, their courage. I also learned about their fears, and I learned about where their beliefs ended as a result of those 4 pillars. And they would
Mm.
continue to go back. And like, it's amazing because there's so many universal beings here right now. And, you know, they want to share, they want, people to know that you're never alone, and your courage, your conviction, your ability to be who you are is never challenged on a universal level, ever. Because they see you, they feel you, and they know all the parts of you. They have a full 360-degree perspective.
Mm.
It's humans who don't. And it's remembering that as you go through life and, your beliefs are challenged. And most of the time our beliefs are challenged because what we think about what other people are going to think, say, or do. And that alone is understanding that humans don't have the capacity for a 360-degree perspective. We've got about an 8 or 9 at full. Most people function in that 3 to 4% or per, degrees. So it's being able to recognize that your greatness is at your fingertips, and the secret is feeling. And we're gonna do a lot more episodes about feeling, about energy, about awareness. And Robin, I'm so grateful you were here. I know you didn't say very much today. They had a lot to say, but I want to invite you back. But I also want people to understand that your ability to feel is magnificent, and you've integrated it into your life and who you are and who you be. And for those who don't know Robin, Robin is an incredible osteopath, and she's taking osteopathy to another level, because it's not just a practice that she's gone in and learned. She's participating with your soul. and she's allowing your soul to communicate with her as she's there. So sometimes, she'll say something that has to do with, a loved one in your family, or, an experience that you're like, I have no idea. But it's because your soul knows that you needed to hear it and you needed to feel it. And, it's a full mind, body, and soul experience that you're receiving when you are working with Robin. So, and if you've never experienced osteopathy, I encourage you highly to go and give Robin a call, reach out, and I will, yeah. What's the best way for people to find you, Robin?
Probably online. It's Robin Montgomery, DOMP.com, or if you just look up Robin Montgomery and osteopathy, you should find me.
Awesome. And if they can't, they can always find you through me. They can, right? Which is brilliant.
Email, it's osteorobin11@hotmail.com.
Oh, perfect. Yay.
Yeah. Everything's OsteoRobin. That's OsteoRobin11.
Yay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. This has been an amazing way to spend a morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. I will see you very, very soon. And for our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this conversation and want to learn more, head on over to michellevickers.com. Join our mailing list to receive new episodes right to your inbox, or apply to be a guest on the show. If this episode made you think of someone while you were listening, forward the link onto that person with a little note about why it made you think of them, because the greatest gift you can give another human is to see the beauty and purity of who they truly are. Until next time, stay curious.